day to you all. My name is Tamara Wellens, and this is my first time coming before you as the newly elected DC chapter president. I want to take this time to welcome you to a remarkable meeting of the creative minds led by our very own Tia Smith to discuss a film that represents us so well here in the DC area, Really Love. Each time I watch this film, I am truly captivated by the beauty and brilliance of the storytelling through music, the visual arts, the artists, and of course the homage to the places near and dear to our beloved DC metropolitan area, and its people, art, and culture. And I love a good love story. So on behalf of the DC chapter of the Recording Academy, I welcome you. And now I invite you to hear from the one and only Dr. Angie Gates, Director of the DC Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment.
Hello, I'm Dr. Angie Gates, Director of the DC Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. I want to welcome you to the Recording Academy Washington, D.C. chapter panel on the DC-based film, Really Love. It will feature director and DMV native Angel Kristi Williams and Khari Mateen, who created the original score. This DC-centric film shows the importance of bringing together storytelling visuals and music to tell a story that highlights our local culture. The film is set in Washington, D.C. A rising Black painter tries to break into a competitive art world while balancing a whirlwind romance he never expected with an ambitious law student. It is a story about the bittersweet romantic relationships that change your life, challenge you, and allow you to grow. This creative event is just one way the Grammy DC chapter is developing programming to highlight the important collaboration of visuals and music. The DC Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment supports the film industry through a wide range of resources available for local producers and producers outside the district who want to film right here in DC. Our entertainment office is at the forefront of supporting the DC music scene and working to promote, protect, and support Go-Go, the official music of Washington, D.C. Our mayor, Muriel Bowser, is committed to the arts and creative community and is unwavering in her belief that artists, creators, and cultural institutions deserve a champion. D.C. is one of the most creative cities in the world, filled with arts, theater, music, fashion, and film. And our agency is pleased to work with the Recording Academy of Washington, D.C. in promoting film, music, and entertainment in the district. The Entertainment Office is a one-stop shop that offers referral assistance, liaison support, and permitting logistics. We have several resources available, including DC Real Scout, DC Real Crew, and DC Real Vendor. We oversee the DC Film Rebate Fund and are committed to bringing more film and television productions to Washington, D.C. The DC Film Rebate Fund provides production incentives and cash rebates to production companies. We administer the Creative Industry Sponsorship Program, supporting film screenings, special events, and other creative artistic programming. Well, as you can see, we focus on Washington, D.C.'s creative industries and the creative community. We work each and every day to create jobs for district residents to keep Washington, D.C. the capital of creativity. And now, enjoy the panel.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon Ingram, and I am the Executive Director of the DC chapter of the Recording Academy. Our chapter's music video committee is happy to host this program. The idea for this event was brought to us by DC chapter governor and music video committee co-chair Tia Smith, who is an amazing artist and the perfect person to moderate this conversation. Tia is the owner of Talented Soul Productions and an award-winning executive producer, director, and consultant. She's known for spearheading and identifying commercially marketable projects that span digital, independent, corporate, television, film, and live events. Tia recently received the Trailblazer Award from the African American Women in Cinema, a proclamation from the City of New York, and a day of recognition honoring her artistic contributions. She is a force. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Tia Smith.
Hi, thank you, Sharon. Tamra, the Recording Academy and the DC chapter. Also, Dr. Gates, who co-chairs with me the Music Video Committee. We're really excited because DC and its chapter is the only chapter that has a music video committee. And through our President Emeritus, she found it really, really important for us to always show how storytelling is done and the ways that it can be formed. And what more beautiful art form for the marriage of visuals and music to come together. So we're really, really proud about that. And today we have two creatives with this movie, Really Love, that's truly exemplifying it. But do know before we start the panel that we would love for you to engage in this conversation by joining us in the chat and also by putting your questions in the questions and answers. But without further ado, let's get into the intros. Angel Kristi Williams is an award-winning filmmaker born and raised in West Baltimore, Maryland, not West Philly, but West Baltimore. Her feature directorial debut, Really Love, produced by Macro, won the special jury recognition for acting for co-stars Kofi Siriboe and Yutha Wong Loy Singh at South by Southwest. The film then played as a part of AFI's Fest special presentations to much acclaim. Angel is a Sundance Institute Momentum Fellow, as well as a Film Independent Project Involved Directing Fellow, where she was the recipient of the Sony Pictures Diversity Fellowship. Angel also won her first NAACP Image Award for directing Colin in Black and White, her first episode of television. She directed an episode of Naomi for the CW network and will later helm the season 2 opener of Cherish the Day for OWN. She splits her time between Baltimore and LA and holds an MFA in directing from Columbia College in Chicago. Khari Mateen is a composer, producer, and multi-instrumentalist whose creations span many genres within pop culture and current events. Thanks to his firsthand music education, Khari's first credits of note came at the age of 19 with the Roots 2006 Grammy-nominated album, Game Theory. He contributed to their subsequent films and also albums, Rising Down and Grammy-nominated Undone. In 2008, Mateen added composing for films and TV to his repertoire with his first feature film, Explicit Ills. He then went to work with Emmy-winning producer Mark Levin on the Sundance series, Brick City. And since then, Khari has scored an array of critically acclaimed films like Really Love and TV projects for major networks and streaming platforms, including ESPN, HBO, Showtime, Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. People are working, you hear me? So let's get into this panel. And actually, special shout outs to Kobe Kiambu and also Umar White, who are DMV natives and creatives that actually connected us. So, you know, I always am a firm believer that good people know good people. So, you know, that's how we connected. So we had to get that shout out.
Agreed. Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Queen, so much. So excited to be here and engage in this conversation with Khari and with you and with everyone joining us. So thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Same here. Yeah, super pumped. Can't wait to just talk and, you know, just answer whatever questions and just put out the, you know, information and, you know, connect for sure.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I mean, we just talked about connections. So how did you guys meet? How did you connect to work together on this project.
I like how you just immediately put that story on me. Okay, I'll take it. So actually, my music supervisors on the film, Jonathan Christensen and Marielle JT, who are fantastic, they actually found Khari and said, you two need to meet. And Khari and I think the first time we met was at a coffee shop. Yep. And I had shared the deck with him, and we listened to, I had my earbuds, we listened to some music in the coffee shop, and immediately it was just a vibe. Like, you know, we talked about love, and, you know, we just started working. Like, you know, for me, I am so keen about energy. And when I met Khari, I knew that it would just be a really beautiful collaboration just from the conversation that we had, you know, immediately. So that's how we met.
Yeah, she had like a playlist ready. Like she's like, yo, so
the playlist,
some real bangers on this playlist.
I revisited the playlist this week. It's like, you know, it's 10 hours long, but wow. I just, you know, played it this week, and it's still like so wonderful, like from front to back. Like I just let it play for the entire day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you definitely collaborated with that big time. But wait, Khari, are you saying that she came already saying what she wanted, or like?
Yeah, it was like, you know, when somebody comes with a 10-hour playlist, you're like, man, you've been with this for a minute. So it was like, for me, it was like, all right, let's go. Like we have you know, this is something that, you know, obviously, you know, she's been with it for so long, and then, you know, getting all this information for someone, you're just like, wow, like, you know, how do I fit in and, you know, and make this happen? So I was not overwhelmed, but I was like, wow, I love the preparation that was already there. So it was just like, wow, all right, cool. Like there's a road in her mind that, like, you know, once we get on that road, we're gonna be just fine, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. It makes the difference, the details, the research, you know, so that people can operate in their lanes. And then, of course, she trusted you to build on that vision and make us all fall in love. I mean, we talked about this just a little bit.
We really did.
Yeah, it's like, it's so moody. It's so surreptitious. It's so lush, you know, visually. And then you bring the sonic end. I'm like,
the score is so sexy, right? Khari is like, yeah. We'll get into the juicy stuff, but I'll tell you the story of the credit cue, like the final credit cue.
Oh yeah, I know.
We did that. It was the last thing that we did, and I remembered we talked, and then the next day he sent me a sketch, and then the following day the horns were in, and I was like, how did you do this in 2 days? And he said, well, you know, I called the trumpet player, Christopher Stevens, and he said, I told him to make love to the trumpet. Yeah. And I said, what?
You thought you were making a certain type of movie, and what's really happening, right? But it's those things that make it feel right.
Yeah.
You know?
And yeah, well, I will say too, when you called me, I was like, you know, you was like, yo, we got to have one more. I was like, and you know, I think you were like, I think there was like some other music there. I was like, you know what, like I got you. Like once we've already created all this wonderful music, it was like only a few ways to go, you know. So when I sat down with Chris, it was really easy because we've already been there before. So I was like, all right, let's put it together in the right way, you know. No problem.
It definitely did. Again, I was like, I don't know what I'm feeling. And that's what, well, I knew what I was feeling, but that's what it does. I mean, it taps all the senses. That's what art is supposed to do. So for you, Angel, I mean, we know that you had your research. You worked with Felicia Pride, who I haven't had a chance to meet yet, but also Maryland.
Maryland, stand up. Yeah, shout out to Felicia Pride for bringing this beautiful story to me, you know, that originated from her. Yes, so we're both from Baltimore, Maryland, but just so grateful that this project came to me.
So what other ways did you prepare to bring the visual to life?
Well, obviously music was a key part, and the genesis of that playlist was I listen to music 24/7, right? Like the only time I'm not playing music, well, probably today is right now because, I gotta have it silent in the background, but otherwise like music is constantly on around me. And so when I'm, wanting to be in a creative space, a lot of times I'm listening to music to inspire me. And so when I first read the script, immediately I heard music. And then all of a sudden it became, okay, now we're writing music into the script. And it's so funny that some of the licensed songs that were written into the script, we actually were able to license and keep in the film, like Alice Smith's cover of I Put a Spell on You. Like there were so many things that I wrote in, but that was the thing I said, okay, if y'all are unwilling to pay for the rights for anything else, like I have to have this one. But, in terms of preparation, it's music. I was, going to see a lot of art. I was interviewing a lot of my friends who are artists, painters specifically, and I was doing studio visits just because I wanted to immerse myself in that world and sort of figure out, because I'm not a painter, but I wanted to be as close to it as I could so that I could hopefully like translate that experience on screen, and try to figure out, okay, well, what does a love story look like for this person, right? Who's making this kind of art. And so those were all the things that were inspiring me.
Well, that definitely showed. And for you, Khari, how did you prepare? I mean, you got the playlist, right?
Yeah.
You got the vision. And then sonically, I mean, I just remember like when they were in love, it was very whimsical. It was very light. You used like tepid kind of beats, like dare I say. And then the cello, when it got moodier, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. The timing's off. Nobody's communicating. So all of that sensory is happening. So what else did you do in your wizardry?
Yeah, I think a lot of prep was conversations between me and Angel. We definitively wanted to make sure that Kofi's character was like the trumpet and Yutha's character the cello. So that, I mean, if you watch the film, you'll see when they're when they're in their own elements, I'm using more cello for, at one point or more trumpet at one point. And you can see that, the music becomes a character together and, having some experiences when they're having experiences together, especially like the montage of the film, like I would say like that's like the apex of the film, which I love. We did that one earlier, but it was beautiful how it came together because it set the tone for the rest of the film and how all the other music played out. And so once their love is intertwined, you hear a lot of trumpet and cello together. And to me, that was just a great marriage and a decision that we made very early on, me and Angel, to make sure that we portrayed it well. I think she wanted saxophone first, but I was like, you know what, trumpet might be the move.
Absolutely right, but I have to say, like that decision to really attach a specific instrument to each character was just so magical for the film, but also for the journey. And I love, when I was reading the film, I knew that I wanted to hear a horn, but I didn't know what it should be. I just knew that I wanted, to me, horns have always had this sort of like timeless sound, and I wanted to create that type of sound for the film. But when Khari came to me and said, let's have, and he's a cellist, so I was like, oh, that is, what a wonderful coincidence because strings are my favorite instrument. So he said, well, what if she is cello and he's the trumpet, And so I think that we just ran with that, and Khari was able to assemble just these really beautiful dances between the instruments, like the moments where it's sort of like, push me, pull me. And then when they come together, they're like really like connected and intertwined. And then there are moments when they're just completely separate. And I think it's just so beautiful in terms of like the arc.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear you both talk about it, because a lot of times people just think we're in our bag as creative, like, oh, that's so deep. But, every decision from casting to lighting to the instruments used, how they're separated, how they're mixed, goes into an experience. And you may not know how to articulate it, or then maybe you can pick it out. But the bottom line is that because it was crafted and constructed, it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. But yeah, it's true. I mean, for me, that's the only way I feel comfortable or confident. It's like every choice, right? There's a process of like, why am I making this choice? Why are we choosing this instrument for this moment? Why is it this tempo? This rhythm. It was just so deliberate in every way, from, the music, but also like the color palette and, the paintings that you see on screen. We were really specific, like, okay, we want to see really bright colors in the beginning of the film, and then they sort of like become muted at some point, So yeah, like every, I was talking to not just Khari, but all of the department heads. We were in conversation about like where we were in every moment and how, our creative ideas and contributions were, like pushing the story forward.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So was there like a word or a theme that kept you guys in alignment? You know how it is when you do like a scene breakdown. You go into your scene and you speak to particularly maybe your DP and you say, okay, the word is this, and this is what I want to feel. The collaboration, the communication, was there certain words that kept you guys really in sync in your language through the process?
That's a really beautiful question. Khari,
Thank you.
Do you remember anything specific?
This is what I would say about that. For me, it wasn't the word. It was more so about and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that Angel's passion for what she wants to hear and see is something for me that pushed me to create music that was like, like, I remember one time calling my mom, I'm like, yo, this is very early on. I was like, man, she is tough, man.
So wait, she's smiling now, but she was cracking the whip. Like, give us.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was not like cracking the whip. It was just like, it had to be something that was right. And, like I said, being that she's so close to the feeling and know so much about music as well, and hearing certain things, to me that was like, that passion really drove me to really dig deep into what I was seeing on screen, what the purposeful colors and the movement, how they're moving on screen. She's already made those decisions, so now how do you make sure that you're complementary in music for the scene? So I think for me, it was her attention to detail. Not a word, I guess the word would be detail, but yeah, that to me, that is what would kind of push me to create.
Yeah, we need to expand offline on this story about this phone call with your mom. Every time you said it, and I'm like, wait, like what?
I was walking down the beach. I was like, I had to take a break.
But Khari, you're so, that's so generous, what you said, and I receive it. But also for me, Khari's score really completed the film. Like it was not completely there. There are all these elements, right, that make it what it is. And for me, like the music is such a huge part of that. Like sometimes, like in the car, I just listen to the score, from beginning to end, and it really, like there's no lyrics, but you still sort of feel emotionally like this journey, from beginning to end. It's like you can hear the moments where it's like, oh, okay, we're falling in love. I have a crush on you. And then the moment where it's like, no, we're in love. Yeah. And then there's the moment where it's like, oh, you've done something to break my heart. And then there's oh, I see you again, and I thought that it went away, but it's still, the shit is still there. You know what I mean? Like you can hear it all, like in the way that he plays. And I remember, and this is the first collaboration where I have worked so closely with my composer, and it's sort of like sets the bar for like how I want to continue to work. But Khari invited me into the studio with him, like, while he was scoring and writing and mixing. And I took this video of one session where he and Chris were laying the horns on some of the cues, and just like being in that space with them and like just watching him, like in process, but also just like, you know what I mean? Being a fly on the wall and seeing him work. It was just such a beautiful experience for me.
Yeah, yeah. And it's humbling too. I mean, I'm sure you learned from it. I solely believe that you're is only as good as your resources. So to allow him to be in that department, yeah, to be in that department after he spoke to his mother, right?
That's my resource.
Wait, what did mom say? What advice did mom?
Like, get to work, boy.
I love your mom. I love your mom.
She's just a big energy. She's really like that. Like, I love that. She's my whole life, she's always been supportive of me doing music, and especially just kind of, yeah, I would say, like, I love music so much. I love creating for people, with people, and passionate people. So when we're all there, I mean, I've definitely done work with people that's like, yo, we just get it, let's get it in, phone it in type of thing. But when you sit down with people, it's like, yo, this to me was a special film. When I watched it, I was like, yo, this is exactly what I want to be doing, And so, at that time, I wasn't really getting a lot of films like that. So for me, I was like, yo, let me really show people what I, would do with the resources that you have. You know what I'm saying? Like, a great film. If you give me a great film, we're gonna do some great work. You know what I'm saying? So you really want that. You really want that energy from the people around you, and I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. When it all aligns. I mean, I'm seeing in the chat. Yes, scoring is a part of telling the story. Well done. It's a dance that you created with art. When it truly does come together.
Yeah.
And even the resources, it's true. That means you had a budget too to get that, which is wonderful, because I similarly use that same clip of I'll Put a Spell on You for one of my movies, in When Love Kills, and it's just dramatic. You know what I mean? And those are the things that you fight for to tell the story. So, but okay. Yeah. The collaboration is wonderful. You guys are vibing. You have marching orders. You're creating in your own right. Everything is lovely. What happens, and it doesn't seem like this happened, but what happens when there are like issues with deadlines and the communication is not there? Like, what are some of the tips and tools and positing you can give to people when there's a little bit of friction and it's just not working out between the two departments?
That's a great question. I'll let
Khari again, or call mom again. Or, I don't know. What does one do when that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, it's never, for me when I'm working, it's never like, I'm like, hey, it's not really, I'm not trying to create like an issue, or like, I don't really feel like we ever had like an issue working on this. It was more so, it's just like, is this the best we can do? You know what I'm saying? And for me, that was enough for me to be like, oh, wow. Like, all right, yeah, is it good enough? You know what I'm saying? So for me, that was just one of those things where I was just, that may have caused some frustration, and of just like, man, like, dang, what could I do? How can I reapproach this? But, thinking about it now, it's just like, yeah, it was a great idea to come back and just like, all right, let's do this again, or change this one thing, or, even it was even some parts where the edit wasn't what the edit is now, and she moved the song, and it was like, yo, that's fire, right? Yeah, let's go with that.
we had a couple of those really magical moments where the editor would just put something, and I was like, that wasn't written for that scene, but and they would drop it in, and it's like, yo, like, this is the cue for this scene. Like, there's one in particular that really stands out to me, and it is in the very beginning of the film when he walks her home after they spend the entire night at the Go-Go, and he, they walk to her house, and they kind of stop in front, and he asked for her number. That cue was written for an entirely different scene later in the movie. And we just, myself and my editor wanted to try it out there. Because Khari was working, like we were churning out scenes, and I was like, all right, I need scene number 134, right? He would just get a text like, scene 134 is up, like, let's go. But we just tried it out, and it was so perfect tonally that I sent it to him, and he said, oh, okay. Well,
I had no problems with that.
Yeah, sometimes like, it just happens. But for me, the one thing that I'll say is, and Khari, you're so sweet to say, like, I know a lot about music. I know what I like. Yeah. And I think for us, our collaboration, what worked really well was, I couldn't necessarily say, oh, like this note right here is making, I don't know about this there, but I would just tell him how everything was making me feel. Right. And then he would take that information and be like, oh, okay, well, that's not what it's supposed to be making you feel. So let's go back. So I knew how to speak about what I was hearing emotionally, and that kind of guided us.
Yeah. It's like jazz. It's like when I hear music, you're just like, hold on now. That's the conversation. It's like, let's make sure we talk in the same language, which is cool. Cause maybe I was looking at something and it's like, but then, I'm here to work for the film. This is not like some personal, so getting that information from her, I think that was super important. And, as a musician, like I said, I know all the notes and all that stuff, but the storytelling is really the part that's supposed to be in front, so no matter how killing you are as a musician, if the music is not telling the right story, then what are you doing? You're just showing off your musical talent. So you don't want to be in a way, you want to be in just right in lockstep with the film. So she gave me a chance to do that. And it just goes back and forth. I was really appreciative, honestly, of those moments, especially the montage. Like seriously, it's not a lot of times you get to hear just music, like no dialogue, no background, no explosions, none of that. Just like
listen, I love
the screen. I'm like, yes.
I love me a silent montage.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, just silence. It's so like silence. I feel like, silence is so underutilized, and for me, that is probably my favorite sequence in the film. They're not talking, but you feel everything that their bodies are saying to each other, like over the course of this day and night.
Yeah.
I think I'm inspired to write a book.
Ooh, okay. Yes.
Hold on, here we go. So much in the silence. Y'all think it'll hit? I don't know. Y'all just.
I like the title. I like the title. Yeah. Yes, I like the title.
I feel a collaboration. I don't know.
Somebody's in the chat like, yes, Tia.
I got the approval.
I love it.
Let's go to the Q&A. Want to definitely engage. You guys are on fire. Thank you so much for the support. Everyone is loving it, and just the transparency that you're giving, and the collaboration, and just showing how, when it's woven together, it is that story. We got Trey Wheat. How long did it take Khari to score the project?
Oh, I don't really remember the time, like how long it took.
I feel like
when did we start? Honestly, I didn't.
I feel that you started probably. Once I showed you like a rough cut, I feel like you started writing.
Yeah.
But then once I locked picture, once you lock picture, then it's like everybody got to rush. It's like, oh, we spent all this time, you're working. And then you lock picture and it's like, okay, everybody deliver everything now. It's a little bit insane the way we, approach.
There's a lot of work at the end, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I think like a bulk of it was done at the end just because of how tight the cut was. So, I mean, I would say, because Chris came in, because I had the patches on the trumpet, but we needed real trumpet to get on there. So I called him in. He was there for a week, and he took like 2 days to cut all the trumpet parts.
Right.
Because
that was all we could afford, was like in town for a week.
Yeah, he plays like John Legend. This dude is amazing.
Yeah, like I was so like, when you told me he was coming and he was gonna lay all the horns down, he
did all the horns right before he played on the stage at Hollywood Bowl for John Legend. Like unbelievable. Right before that.
So literally, we piggybacked off. Okay, you gonna be in LA? You in LA to be on tour with
the film? Let's do it.
Can you come to the studio right quick and just lay something down for us?
Okay.
But that's how you have to get it done. And again, that's the passion and everybody being in step, because we all know how it could have gotten, but it you guys still,
Definitely. I think once you get to that point, I love when someone said, explain what picture lock is. Picture is, correct me if I'm wrong, and just when the film is, you're not editing anything differently in the film.
Right. It's when the picture edit is not going to change. So you're not going to go in and tweak anything, even if it's like a second. Once you lock picture, everything stays as is, and that's it. That's the film.
And every single note, every single whatever or thought is over.
And so, like, at that process, for us, it was more like making sure the mix was right, any extra like sound, anything, that's when you get to sound and music and stuff like that. So at that point, it was like all hands on deck for me, and just making sure that all the cello parts was right, all the sound was right. And mix engineer, it was just, after that process, it goes pretty fast. So I would say a lot of the textural ideas was probably, it took, like, just to answer that person's question, how long did it take? Probably like 3 or 4 months of like kind of creating sounds and tones and stuff like that. And then like that last month of real work, heavy lifting, we kind of knocked it out. And beautiful.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take one more question, and then we'll hop back, of course. Elise Perry, scoring really assists in telling stories. What made you decide to have the film scored rather than using existing music beds for scenes? So many filmmakers don't and won't, but why did you, Angel?
Oh, I love a score. And even, with both the score and the licensed music, which we sometimes refer to as needle drops, like the Alice Smith cover of I Put a Spell on You. I was really specific about where I wanted to hear music in the film, right? And where I didn't want there to be any music. And there were a couple scenes that Khari scored, and we realized, oh, this needs to be quiet, like that scene when they're in the bedroom and she asked him to move in. We had a cue there, and I watched it and I was like, oh, this just needs to be like really quiet. Like, this is such a huge sort of, step forward in their relationship, and, just sort of like how they're responding to one another, that it just needed to be quiet. But I feel that, when you have the opportunity to collaborate with a composer to write an original score, it's more intentional, it's more specific. When you're working with, existing songs, you sort of, it's harder to find something that really like matches the film,
and speaks to it the way that you need it to speak to.
Right.
I mean, some things, okay, yes, right? You place the music, you pay rights and clearances, thank you very much. But it's true about having those defining moments and being able to craft it yourself. Nothing like it.
Yeah.
And lovely budget again.
I love to do
So how important was it? Okay, yes, it was shot in the DMV, but how important was it to use like actors from the DMV? I saw Michael Ealy, Kennedy High School, shout out, right? Down the street from me, the Go-Go Band, and other elements to really authenticate the film. I saw in the chat, Von Vargas, who's from Baltimore, as you know.
Okay, all right.
Okay. A couple Baltimore shots too in there. So again, how does that substantiate what we're visually seeing and put it on the map?
Yeah, so I'm, from Baltimore, born and raised, very, very proud, Baltimore native. So for me, like I live and breathe that city, DC, like I spent the first 2 years of my college life at College Park. So every weekend we were at Howard, so I've spent a lot of time in DC, and it's such a very specific part of the country. Like it has its own music, like the culture, you can't go anywhere in the US, right, and find the kind of specificity that exists in DC or Baltimore. And so for me, a lot of those elements were in the very first draft of the script that I read, but then also Felicia and I just continued to build on those very specific elements. Like we knew, it's like, okay, we cannot make a film that's set in DC and not have a go-go in the film somewhere. Like, and, but we also didn't want it to feel like, oh, we're just gonna show these things so that it's DC. We wanted it to be DC that a local would know, like they're gonna pull up where, only the homies go to this spot, you know what I mean? Like they're not gonna, just go to kind of like the touristy thing. So we really wanted to, just represent that, because also I feel like, we don't have many stories, at least I can't think of any, right, where you see this place represented, you know what I mean? And so that was just really important from jump, and I was really glad that we were able to take the production there and actually like the actress, Yuta came a week early and like stayed in DC. My producers took her to a go-go, you know what I mean? She was very interested in like, because she grew up in the Netherlands. So she was very interested in like putting her feet on the ground and like, feeling the vibe and that humidity and tasting the food. And yeah, it was so humid. Like that dew and that glow, that is real. And she was like, oh, this is like a different kind of hot. Like, like it was really, so everyone wanted to have an experience, and they wanted to, make it feel as authentic as possible.
And thank you for that. Because to your point, capturing the culture of DC, obviously, we've had the bureaucracy and the government, those are the angles and what's been featured, but the people of DC, our vibe, mambo sauce to the humidity, so the volume in her hair, some things were planned but unplanned, but it still looked lovely. Those are the things that make us who we are. Even, the different professions, from the hood to this being specifically PG County in this area, the highest concentration of Black professionals,
exactly,
in the country. So you got all kind of money making and all in between, which still, grounded us that we're not monolithic, that you're going to see all kind of types. So
exactly. And I mean, that's one of the things that I'm exploring in the film too, is like, what are those class differences even amongst our community, right? And how do they show up in their relationship and cause tension, and insecurity, because she has a particular experience, right? That is a non-issue for her, but is an issue for him because he's raised a particular way and thinks, oh, I have to be and do X, Y, Z in order to, show up in this relationship. And my sort of take on that has always been Stevie, the female character in the film, is she's always, her position is like, I don't need you to take care of me. I just want you to love me. You know what I mean? But that he couldn't get past his own barrier.
It also didn't help that there was some applied pressure with meeting the parents too. That's what you did.
Definitely applied pressure.
So there was some internal insecurities, right? That we've all had. And then you have, oh, thank you for Blair Underwood, Fine Like Wine. He does.
And Suzanne Douglas.
And Suzanne, God bless.
Our ancestor, like,
yes.
They were so wonderful. Like, I could not have asked for a better cast. You know, everybody, it was like we had all worked together already. Like, just the way everybody, Suzanne Douglas, in fact, showed up with that fly ass fade,
yes.
with the purple color, you know, and my hair and makeup department heads were like, oh, she don't need to come to the trailer. Like, she ready. She ready. And just her spirit, it was just so magical, you know, just the way she dropped in and just inspired everybody. I mean, my DP was mesmerized with her. Like, he just could not, you know, pull it together.
She's Queen Mother, and rest in power.
Yeah.
Definitely beautiful. She's so consistent. So, I mean, you really did have a dream cast. And I love, again, the characters and the visuals and the actors that grounded us, but then taking a chance on some newcomers too. So it's like you also popped some people off too, and represented DC.
Yes.
DC, Baltimore, respectively. So,
yes.
Okay. Talk to us about the DC Film Commission. Obviously, Dr. Gates and whole team are incredible. They, you know,
everyone.
There's so many resources. So, you know, you interfaced with them. Talk about that experience for us.
Yeah, I mean, the DC Film Office, they were so such a vital resource for us. I mean, we contacted them early, like even when we were still deciding, you know, whether or not we would go back to DC and Baltimore and shoot the film. And when it finally was confirmed, they were just so excited as we were. And they were just always just a phone call or email away. Like, even when, you know, I went back to do pickups, like, they were just such a fantastic resource. And then when the film was released, like, they put the word out, you know, to their constituents, you know, on social media, through their email blasts. Like, they have been true supporters of the film and just my entire team. So I'm so grateful to them and everyone in the film office.
Yeah, and you know, of course, we're proud of ours, but you know, to everyone listening, wherever you are, you know, look into your local commissions and how they can benefit you to create these projects. There's a lot of different resources that you can tap into. A lot of different favors and things that can be curbed to get you what you need while you're setting up your film or anything, your film, your short, anything that you need. That collaboration is essential, you know? So I'm glad that worked out for you. So Khari.
Yes.
You know, a lot of musicians come to me, you know, when I'm prepping for different things also, and they feel like scoring a film is the next level.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's the next level? And, you know, how would you, what would you say to that person that's looking to getting into composing for film and television?
Yeah, I think, man, I feel super blessed to have had the opportunities that I got early on. Like, you know, early on, I was working in Philadelphia with the Roots. And, you know, at that time, I was doing, you know, working with them a lot, working with a lot of artists, you know, up and down. Like, so I would be in DC. I would be playing, you know, jazz clubs in DC. And
nice.
And I was just up and down, and, you know, and being around a ton of musicians. And to me, as a young person, when I was a little kid, I used to watch films all the time. And I'm like, wow, like when I started playing cello as a kid, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then once, you know, I remember my mom showing me like, wow, you know, yeah, the orchestra doesn't just play on stage, they play for film. And I was like, all right, wow, yeah, this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be. So I knew I needed to take steps to get there. And, you know, working with, you know, with artists and doing all that. And, you know, when I got my first chance to do Explicit Ills, you know, I told him, I was honest with him. I was like, yeah, I can do this film, but I've never done one. So like, let's try this thing out. And, you know, I definitely put my all into it. And, you know, from that first film, I really I do the same thing for every film, is make sure I am doing everything I can to communicate with the editors, the directors, anyone who's got a suggestion on whatever for the film, because what I realized was whatever I didn't know, I asked them, what should I be doing there? What should I be doing? You know, because I remember asking a ton of questions with the directors and producers too, because they wanted the music to be a certain thing. So I remember Seth Shear was on that. The director was Mark Webber. That film got saw by so many people at South by that Mark Levin reached out to me and he was like, yo, I did Brick City with them, but I did like 10 other projects with those guys. Wow. And from there, it was just really about like communicating, talking to the editors and really doing the hard work of understanding, you know, what they need and understanding how to, you know, get people the materials. You know, I remember Angel had to send in the right files and like, you know,
you better do it.
Yeah, it's like, it's a whole list of things. And I really, to any, you know, musician, producer that want to get into it, is just, you know, ask a ton of questions, like reach out to, you know, any, you know, you can reach out to me. I'll let you know. Because I love giving out this information, because this is exactly what I got. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for so many other people. Just let them use their studios. I remember Questlove just, you know, back early in the day, it was like, yo, just go in the studio. If I'm on tour, boom, here's the key, you know. Nice. So wow. It was amazing to, you know, and I was definitely responsible, and I would definitely look at those situations like,
right, not erasing any tracks in the studio or anything else, right?
No, ain't no smoking, none of that, like no drinking, like no, it ain't none of that. Like we working, we're learning, and education is huge, you know, if you want to get into the film, I mean, because, you know, there's a lot of information that comes with this, and there's it's a higher stake, you know. I think, you know, these budgets sometimes can be upwards in $1 million. So like, no wasted any time, you know, have as much information. And if you don't have it, just kind of reach out to whoever you may need to reach out to get that information. Because, you know, to the young people coming into this, if this is your first one, your first film, first short, you know, just really just seek out as much information as you can. Indeed. That's what I would say. Yeah.
This is not possible. How are we here already? We need a part 2. I have a very big problem with this, a very big problem. But I love that, because I mean, I'm not so cynical to say that people don't do it anymore, but it's always wonderful to hear the pay it forward. Like, we're all here because we stood on somebody's back. We were inspired by someone. So you got to give it. There's enough work.
Yep.
You know, there's enough stories out there that need to be represented, and hopefully in this renaissance, dare I say, continue to push us forward.
Yeah.
And there's enough ways for us to collaborate and do some incredible work.
For sure.
But even I don't appreciate this because I have 3 minutes left.
Where did the time go?
I know. We're going to continue this, guys. Sorry. Because I know, Khari, if you could, there was a quick question about the string patches and software you use. Yeah. Really quickly, if you could just jot that.
What's the question? What software?
What software, string patches, and
I play cello, so there's no string patches. Okay. I use the DAW or audio program that I use is Pro Tools. So everything is recorded live into Pro Tools. I did use a trumpet patch to write out some of arrangements, but then when Chris Stevens came in, we kind of threw all of that out the window, kept some, and then he replayed live all of the horns on there. So there is no like fake sounds on the score at all.
Yeah, everyone's asking. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Angel.
No, I was just saying yes. Like, Khari, the next one we're gonna go and we're gonna have a whole orchestra.
Let's get it. Let's go. I'm ready.
Oh my gosh! Wait, I'm feeling.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Very. You know how in the 70s those movies were just so broad and so big.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm here for all of that. Okay, so I have to sneak in one more. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, give us just one quick sentiment before they get me. One quick sentiment that you would say to inspire those that are working together, that are filmmakers and also musician artists.
Angel, go ahead.
Oh, wow! What a beautiful question. Ooh, the first thing that comes to mind is to be present with one another and to trust your instincts. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with that.
And dare I say, embrace silence, because there's a lot that can be found in that.
Yes, thank you.
So
yes.
That was a word for me and many others. I told you the book may be coming.
What's the book title again?
Oh, wait a minute. I have to remember it, right? Hold on.
It's recorded.
Right, it's recorded. I think it was last so much, something in the silence. We're going to work on it though.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate you so much. The Recording Academy.
We appreciate you.
Definitely.
Thank you for this.
Thank you. The DC chapter, everyone, just for you allowing us the space and to get into your space about how this is really done. There's an art to it. There are talents to it. We encourage you to continue to soar, to create, and standing by for what is next for you. Angel, keep on repping the DMV. Khari, we gonna graph you in. You cousin Khari. And continue to do just beautiful work. And I'll turn it right back over to Sharon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much for this inspired and such an important conversation. Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Khari. This was amazing. For all of our attendees, we will be following up with resources from all of the local film offices, so you can be on the lookout for that. And for our members, please be sure to join our Facebook page for up-to-date program information, including the re-airing of this program, because we will be re-airing this important conversation. Again, thank you all for joining us today. Go watch Really Love again and again and again and again, and we will see you soon. Take care. Thank you.